Okay, so today we're going to be talking about how to read a syringe so you know you're pulling up the right dose. We recommend using these Baxter syringes. They're orange ones. You can get them off Amazon. The thing I really like about them is they're slip tip syringes. So this is what they look like at the end. They don't come with needles, which is good. There's no kind of screw-in components at the end of it. They're just very simple, and we'll put the links in the description below. Another great thing about them is that they all come with these little blue caps. And this is really great if you want to pull up multiple doses for the week. So you could pull up 7 doses and just leave them in your fridge in a Tupperware. I really want you to kind of look closely here because I'm going to answer some of the problems that come up a lot. So where do you pull this black plunger to when you're doing your dose? And so you want to pull it to the top of this black ring. So right now, the very top of this black ring is here at this 1 milliliter mark. And so that's pulling a milliliter. It's not pulling 1.2 milliliters, which would be the bottom of that black mark. And so you always pull to the upper part of this black plunger. And so I can show you again at a different dose. If we were all the way down here at 5, this is what it would look like to pull to 5 milliliters. See, the top of the black is right here in line with that. Another question that I get asked a lot is, am I missing out on my dose if I have leftover residual in the top of the syringe? So the syringe will always have a leftover residual in the slip tip and kind of above this section, and that's okay, and that's completely accounted for with the design of this. The dose is everything from this top line here, this first big top line, to down here. So please don't be worried that you're missing out on any dose if you see it residual and like leftover in the tip. Another thing that I'll show you is just some kind of tips on how to pull from this bottle. This is a bottle of Lexapro right here, and what you may need to purchase when you're doing these liquid tapers, if you want to use these syringes, is something called an adapter cap. And these can be purchased on Amazon, and they essentially, this is a universal one, so it doesn't matter what size the bottle is. It has this kind of this gradient. So for me, it kind of fits in perfectly to my bottle right about there, and it will just allow me to kind of easily pull the dose upside down, because if you don't have this, you have to kind of stick the syringe into the bottle, and eventually like the line of the liquid is going to be too low that you won't get it. So you'll need a adapter cap so you can kind of put the syringe in, hold it upside down, and then start to pull it. You may notice sometimes that you could get some bubbles right at the top here. We don't want to be having too many bubbles at the top of the syringe because we're going to be missing out on the dose. So what I'd recommend is you pull past where you want to go. If we wanted to go to 5 milliliters, I would pull past that, and then I would push in, and I just had a bubble in there, and sometimes you can kind of just flick it a little bit to dislodge any bubbles, but I knocked it out and it's gone to the top. I'm going to pull past it again and then just going to push it in to 5. And now everything in the syringe is just pure liquid, and that's what we want. For the majority of the tapers that you're going to be doing, you're going to be using one of these 4 types of syringes. And I'm going to explain to you just quickly why you would pick different ones. And so what we have here is a 10 milliliter syringe. We have a 5 milliliter syringe. We have a 1 milliliter syringe. And then we have a 0.5 milliliter syringe. When you're doing a micro taper, and that is lowering daily, you are going to need to use these 2 syringes here because they have the level of precision that you need to lower the dose on a daily basis or an every other day basis. When you're using these larger syringes, they don't have the level of precision between the numbers to do micro taper. So for instance, if you want to know what the kind of the precision is, the max precision is, you would just have a look at what the smallest space would equal. And so this is a 10 milliliter syringe. between each of the whole numbers, we have 5 spaces. That means that each of these spaces, going from 9 to 10, is going to be equal to 0.2. So that is the level of precision that this syringe is able to do. When we go here to this 5 milliliter syringe, you'll notice that that's actually the same. It has the same level of precision as the 10 milliliter syringe, because between each of the whole numbers, there are 5 spaces, and that means each of these spaces is equal to 0.2. The only reason why you would use a 5 milliliter syringe as opposed to a 10 milliliter syringe is that the spaces here are bigger, so it's going to be easier for you to draw it up accurately. And in fact, because the spaces are so big with a 5 milliliter syringe, you can actually pretty easily do half steps. And so let's say you wanted to drop from 5 milliliters to 4.5. Because these spaces are so large, you could actually pretty confidently park it between 0.4 and 0.6 to get a 4.5 here. And so that's why using the syringe with the lowest milliliter that you require is always going to be best, because it allows you to have greater precision in doing your doses. Everything that I've discussed with these larger ones holds the same for these smaller syringes here. So now what we have is a 1 milliliter syringe, and it's really hard to see. Look how tiny this is. Between the 0.9 and the 1, there's actually 10 spaces. And so if we were going down by 1 space at a time, I just want you to see how tiny that is here, and how, I guess, inexact it is. And you can do it with 1 milliliter syringes if you're very careful. And if you're a little bit off, that's okay, because the process of doing this is already very precise, but it can be very hard to see. That's why what I usually recommend to people is that if you can, you should use a 0.5 milliliter syringe, because this is actually the same. So it's the same level of precision as the 1 milliliter syringe, because between the 0.4 and the 0.5, we actually have 10 spaces there. So same level of precision, but the spaces are actually much larger. And so with a 0.5 milliliter syringe, it's actually a lot easier to kind of accurately kind of measure, okay, here's 2 spaces now. And so it's easy to see, and it's less fiddly. What you might do, and what I have a lot of people do frequently, is if they're doing, let's say they're doing a micro taper, and they are doing a micro taper from 10 milliliters, I'll just have them pull to 9.6. And so that's the majority of their dose. And then on this one, I have them pull to 0.4. So now that's 10 milliliters. And then with this 0.5 milliliter syringe, they just slowly lower it by maybe 1 or 2 spaces every day. And that is the easiest way to do a micro taper. You can take it, you can put it right, you can kind of administer it right into your mouth at each dose. Or some people, they'll buy 10 of these, and then they'll draw 10 of them at a time, and they'll just put them in the fridge in the Tupperware, like labeled 1 to 10, and then they have all of their doses ready to go.